I'm joined in the studio by Jonathan Sacerdoti, who is a broadcaster, journalist and commentator, just to look again at the pressure on the Labour Party from these protests. They've had serious number. They've had 10 resignations already. You've got lots of Labour councillors resigning as well. And I just want to get your thoughts. As an independent journalist, you're very experienced in this area. How much pressure now will we be building on the Labour leadership from both the Jewish community that supports Labour and also the Muslim community as we see these protests, which to me are horrific?
The Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn lost a massive amount of its Jewish support, for sure, for obvious reasons. And I think that the EHRC's findings against the Labour Party meant that when Keir Starmer took over as leader, he really had to reform the party in order to not just regain Jewish voters' confidence, but the confidence of any Labour voters who had a conscience about the fact that anti-Semitism was such a big problem. So I think that his position on Israel's war against Hamas has been partly related to that, but also partly a desire to back up the government's position because that is what is morally and ethically correct.
And I think most people probably thought that actually Keir Starmer had done a very good job in that, given where the party had been under Jeremy Corbyn. But have you been surprised by the pressure now from parts of his own MPs, from Labour voting Muslims? And in a sense, is that highlighting that actually deep down there is still significant anti-Semitism within the Labour ranks?
I think that there is bound to be an issue within the Labour Party, even with a strong leader trying to move it away from problems of anti-Semitism and even the more vicious, more anti-Semitic side of anti-Israel feeling in the party. There's bound to be some people left in the party, including in the House of Commons, who don't agree with that direction that Sir Keir is taking. I think so far he's standing pretty strong against that pushback, and I think that's important. Not again, as I say, not because of Jewish people per se, but because of the whole nation. I think nobody in the nation wants to see Jewish people feeling as alienated and endangered as they did under the Corbyn years. But also when it comes to the issue of the war, I think many people in the country, many Labour voters presumably, will still see that Israel doesn't have many options here after the slaughter and savage kidnapping and brutalising of Israelis. You say that,
but I've been very concerned about the growing hate and incitement to these marches. I saw the very first demonstration near the Israeli embassy on October the 9th. I immediately saw where this could go, and I think it's truly shocking, actually, and I'm very, very concerned about it. And we've even seen today, we've seen actually school children being essentially taken out of school in order to demonstrate, to go to a Labour MP's office and to chant. I think we've actually got a clip on the screen now.
To the sea! Palestine will be free! To the sea! Palestine will be free!
I mean, the reason that those pictures are blurred, Jonathan, is because they are children.
Yes.
And they are singing, chanting from the river to the sea, which I find absolutely abhorrent. And I think we're in a very bad place when you've got school children who are being taken out of school to get involved in the most controversial part of sort of geopolitics. And where does that leave it with mixed schools, where you've got Muslim children and Jewish children?
Well, I wouldn't want to see people pitting Jews and Muslims against each other in Britain. I think the whole point of our society is that it shouldn't matter if you're Jewish or if you're Muslim or if you're neither. I think that we're all able to think as British people and as sensible consumers of the news. And what I'd like to say really about that chant is it is scary to see this from the river to the sea being chanted by children, by anyone on the streets of London. I think if anybody hadn't known previously what it meant and that it indicates a sort of genocidal intent towards the State of Israel and its people, they do know now because it's been so discussed.
I agree entirely, but there's no way, in the nicest possible way, those children can know the undertones, the genocidal undertones. They are being used, I think, as pawns for a bigger picture.
I think that touches on another very important part of this whole issue, which is that there is a bit of a gulf between the older part of society and the younger part and how they feel on this issue. And I think that's the case with many issues in the modern day. But I think that we are at a dangerous moment, because if there are a lot of people in the traditional media, let's say like the BBC, and there are a lot of people even teaching within academia, in schools and in universities, who are swallowing the line that's fed by the BBC. The BBC, for example, is providing a great deal of disinformation on this war and on Israel, as it has always done. I mean, just for example, and this is what influences children and academics. So I think it's forming a next generation who are bound to have warped views on this. The BBC were forced to apologise yesterday for literally reading out the opposite of the news. It was a perfect example of fake news. They said that Israel had gone into the Shifa hospital in Gaza and they had targeted Arabic speakers and medical personnel.
It was an unforgivable mistake. It was as bad or worse as their previous complete howler. They claim to be sort of the best in the business.
Well, it's a blood libel. I mean, it was a blood libel to continually accuse Jews, Israel, the Jewish state, of targeting hospitals, of targeting doctors, when in actual fact...
You're right, they shouldn't be making those mistakes. They've got to do much, much better, or frankly, they shouldn't get involved at all.